Hi, my name's Kayleigh Swift. I'm one of the associates here at MB Property Law, and we've got our colleague Damian Ebzery from the Tax Advisory Strategist with us today.
Yeah, so as like in our previous video, we work together to benefit our clients and make sure they're getting the best of both worlds with regards to both legal advice and tax advice on setting things up properly for small business.
In terms of small businesses or even businesses in general, often, as we discussed last time, you're entering into a lease and there's certain things to take into account, which were covered off in the previous video. The purpose of the video today is to obviously help you understand a little bit about, the future of that business. Are we looking for a succession plan? Maybe we want to look to sell the business in a few years' time, and what needs to be taken into account in order to make sure that we get the best sale price for that business.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of times where people have trying to prepare their business for sale and haven't really considered the terms of the lease and what's in the lease documents, because to be able to sell a business partway through a lease, there needs to be things like an assignment clause in the lease agreement that actually allows them to do it and makes the path as easy as possible, because you don't want to have a potential buyer of your successful business being scared off because of the terms of nasty terms of a lease agreement. And if your location's really good, you don't want to lose that part of the value for the business either.
Yeah, so I suppose with the assignment of leases, for those who are not aware, basically it just means like a transfer of a lease. So you want to be able to have the ability to transfer that lease from the seller of the business to the new owner of the business. Now, in terms of being able to do that, we obviously need to get often the landlord's consent, and they need to be reassured that this incoming buyer does actually have the capability essentially to pay the rent out for the remainder of the period of the lease. So there's a few things to consider, and once that's all been agreed upon, a deed of assignment will basically be done up to allow for that transfer to take place.
One thing that we also see sometimes causes potential sales to have difficulty is there may be a fit out that they've done in the premises that they may not have fully paid off with their financier or something, and there might be some sort of security in place over that fit out. So how are you going to solve that solution as part of the sale? So are you going to get a good cash boost to pay that debt out, something like that? So there's all these little working parts of an arrangement that can make things more difficult if you haven't thought about them.
I suppose in terms of whoever that buyer of the business may be, obviously they're going to hopefully pay cash for that business, but they may not have the finance involved. They may have to get their own lender. Otherwise, sometimes the option is arranging for that vendor finance to become available to them, which may not necessarily help our clients selling that business, because obviously they need cash up front, as Damian's mentioned, to pay some of the debts that they've got owing.
Or they may be planning on retiring and heading off and into the sunset. So you've got to look at it with a little bit of time to go to make sure you do it in the most efficient way and to ensure that you get the highest dollar for the sale of your business.
Thanks, Damian. So I suppose that gives a little bit of an insight into what you need to be aware of, I suppose, with entering into these long-term leases, making sure you've got things like assignment clauses in there, and also having a future plan of what you're planning to do with your business in terms of succession planning and where you see that business going, because it's not something you can just jump into and sell potentially in the next month or two.
Yeah, and that's really important. And maybe as part of a business plan, I normally recommend having a disaster plan too. So what happens if something happens to one of the key people in the business? What's there available to make sure it just doesn't implode? So there's all these little bits and pieces that we cover when we advise our clients.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Damian. As I mentioned, my name's Kayleigh Swift from MB Property Law, and we've got Damian Ebzery from Tax Advisory Strategist. So if you do have any further questions, then obviously feel free to reach out to either of us. Thank you for listening though.
Thank you.